Welcome back. All right, so this video I was going to get done a bit ago, but then they had a press conference with Bettman and Daly, and I went, all right, we'll listen to some of that. And so got some notes from that I've got on the board as well. But we're going to start things off with Jack Eichel. So things get interesting. I guess if you're a Buffalo fan, I was even going to wear a Buffalo jersey, and I thought, no, I've worn Buffalo jerseys a lot. It's an omen. And yet Eichel's out a minimum of 7 to 10 days. He's being reevaluated out of state. So and again, people are already making the joke like, well, if he's got to quarantine for 14 days because he's going to a Canadian team, right? So yeah, I don't know what's going on with Eichel, and I really legit feel bad for Sabres fans again. It's there, but being out a minimum of 7 to 10 days, maybe they can figure it out, get it turned around, and find a way to win games without him. Because there may be a point where they have to. So we're there. Teuvo Teravainen took part in the skate for the Carolina Hurricanes. He is not seen as being close. So he's coming back from concussion. We know these can take a long while. He is not seen as close. Peter Mrazek as well is distant from a return, but that's okay. Nedeljkovic and Reimer are both playing well, and the Carolina Hurricanes are a team with one of the best points percentages in the National Hockey League. So there's that. Things are going pretty well for Carolina in general. Laine made some news today by saying that his confidence is closer to zero because he hasn't had a point in his last 7 games. Laine's a very streaky player. This is something we saw in Winnipeg. And those who love Patrick Laine will point out his hot streaks, and those who don't like Patrick Laine will point out the cold streaks. For me, I'm in the middle. I think he can be a 50-goal scorer. I think there's a really good player there. Finding that player can be difficult at times. And I've done videos about Laine when he was going through those cold streaks and talking about how great he was 1 month and how cold he was the next. And while he's 7 games without a goal, without a point, he could go with 8 goals in the next 3 games, and that wouldn't surprise me either. That's the way things have worked for him. And Roslovic, and this wasn't being really reported as much, but Roslovic also says he thinks his recent stretch of play has been garbage too. Aaron Portzline reporting that from them as well. That Roslovic has not been happy with his play. Of course, those are the 2 players they got in exchange for Pierre-Luc Dubois. So, again, we all want to declare winners of trades when they take place. It takes time. It takes time to declare winners and losers in trades, and even then, sometimes they benefit both teams or neither. Okay, now I'm going to bounce into the Boston part of this. Tuukka Rask has a lingering issue that Bruce Cassidy's thought was just going to be minor, but now they're thinking it's a little more major than what it might have been. And so he's out tonight. He's not in the lineup. It's going to be Halak starting and Vlader as the backup. I honestly think they should give Vlader a look. Here's the reason. Both goaltenders, Halak and Rask, may move on from Boston after this season. You might as well see what you have with Vlader. And as we've seen with other teams, sometimes throwing in a goaltender that hasn't had a lot of experience, it can really boost your team. It can really boost your record. It is a bizarre season that we've seen. We knew it was going to be bizarre anyways, but the goaltending to me has been a huge part of it, where it feels like almost every team has a goaltender. Here you go. Last night, LA, Grosnick hasn't played a game in the NHL in 6 years. There you go. The Rangers, Kincaid's in it. He's still in the league. It played pretty well. So I hope Boston gives Vlader a look, because next season we really don't know how Boston's goaltending is going to look. I really think this is Rask last year. I don't know that it's Halak's last year, but if Rask moves on, you still need to replace that other goaltender. And so we'll see whether or not maybe they can do that from within. Other teams have been able to do it. So maybe Boston's next. So we're going to bounce back now to Bill Daly and Gary Bettman. So Bill Daly was asked about in hopes that the overseas games come back this fall. And we're talking about the games in Finland and Sweden and, this kind of thing where they go over and they play. They're hoping that comes back this fall. They're not sure it's going to be possible. The one thing is I noticed it was phrased as international games, and I thought, well, technically Canada and the U.S., that's technically international games. So saying you don't know if it's going to be available for the fall, that makes it sound like you're saying you're not sure whether or not Canadian teams will play in the U.S. and vice versa in October. We know they will. So I'm an optimist they will. So yeah, That may not be possible. But then what I found interesting was when I tuned in, that Gary Bettman's voice was echoing, and it sounded kind of alien, which I thought, like Visitors, the movie, the show V. Remember V? With their voices were a little different. It kind of had like some resonance to that. So eventually he unplugged from the call and he came back and he sounded normal, but did they fix the disguising device? Did they? So that was just something I wanted to throw in here because why not? But it's interesting to hear them talk about the lottery process. Apparently, it's gone to the Board of Governors. They expect a vote in a week, and it's going to change it. So it's going to change it so that there's only 2 draws, not 3. So the team that finishes at the bottom of the league can't draft any later than 3rd. And you can move up a maximum of 10 spots. So if a team is 12th in terms of their likelihood of winning it, the highest they could go would be 2nd on the draft. So that takes some of the stress out of it for the teams at the bottom. The interesting thing, too, is Gary Bettman saying he doesn't think there's any teams that tank. I will say this. I know I've talked about Yzerman and the Red Wings, and I don't think they've tanked either. I think it was just Yzerman took over, and I've said this before, and he just looked at it and went, this team isn't going to make the playoffs. I'm not going to go out there and try to add players to try to get us a few more wins. This is just going to be a painful situation for a while, and we'll build up our prospects and we'll build up our overall list of players for the future, and just right now it's just kind of a write-off. It's not the same as tanking. It sounds like it, but I do kind of understand where Bettman's coming from. The last time I can remember a team really tanking would have been Buffalo in 2015. I don't think, because the argument was always, well, the Oilers are tanking for all these number 1 draft picks. No, the Oilers were just bad. There wasn't anything intentional going on there, and there are times where teams might look like they're intentionally trying to drop. And I think the reason they're looking at bringing this in next year is because next year's draft is seen as being kind of a big deal, and we're going to have 32 teams. So if they're going to change the system, do it before Seattle's taken the ice, and then it takes place in the 2022 draft. Interestingly, too, there was no definite answer from Bill Daly when he was asked about the draft this year, that they haven't decided fully, they haven't officially decided. However, he believes that it's going to stay in the same spot that it is. And so the draft will be late July is the expectation. And so we'll see whether or not all these changes go through. And remember, this is for next year. This year's draft lottery, as far as I can tell, will be the same as last year's. And then, of course, Ken Campbell of Hockey News gets in there and asks, well, aren't you guys just, changing it all the time? And he kind of makes it sound like every year we change the draft lottery, when in reality they're just tweaking it. It's not a major gaffe. The funny thing was, he then said it's sort of like how, the offside rule and Matt Duchene and now it's created this big thing. And I'm thinking, yeah, now you make sure a player's onside before it's declared a good goal. What point are you trying to make here? So I kind of got the point he was trying to make, but using offside as an example of that, I just thought, yeah, now they're making sure offsides are correct on a goal. And I know, and I agree on some level that if it's 50 seconds before the puck goes in the net, but some of these are way offside. Like, some of these are really, really egregiously offside. And it's to the point now where when I'm watching games, I will say out loud, that play's offside. And then it gets cleared out, and I'm like, but that play was offside. Where you can clearly see it. And in the past, I might have thought, well, I trust the linesman. But now, because we see so many times where it's challenged and so many times on goals where it's onside or offside, and a lot of the times if they challenge it, it's already offside. If it's offside that often on a goal, how many other times during any given game is it not really offside? So while we've looked at players complaining about offsides and turning the linesman going, what? They may have a point at times. So it's a tough job. I don't know how they do it in real time. I get it, because it is not an easy job. There are times where there's a whole schmozzle at the line, and I see the linesman do this, and I'm thinking, yeah, you couldn't be. You're like, I don't know. There's 8 guys here. Sure, it's onside. I don't know. Or there's times they'll just be like, yeah, offside, because I don't know. There's everybody's here. I have no idea. I just blew it dead because sure. So it's not an easy job. refereeing in the NHL is not an easy job either. And the best example I could give would be this. If you have a chance to watch a hockey game from ice level, like I'm talking like around the glass once we're all in back in arenas, not even NHL. You can do this junior level anywhere. And you'll notice like it is tough to find those penalties, and I know referees try to be in the best position to see them, but they get blocked out some of the time. All right. Bettman also says that, yes, they are weighing the benefits of back-to-back games in one spot, saying, yes, it'll cut down on travel costs. They are very happy about the rivalries that are forming. They're very happy about seeing this dislike between teams and the intensity of the rivalries they're seeing. This is leaning towards what I always thought we would see, which is because the league's 32 teams large, you don't really get rivalries anymore if you insist on having a balanced schedule where everybody plays each other a minimum of 2 times. That may change next season because they're seeing the benefit of dropping travel costs, which owners will love that. And it does build rivalries. The one thing that he mentioned, and they always mention this, is he says, well, for fans, if they're going to say, and I'll use the example of Sidney Crosby. So you're going to see the Penguins against the Flyers, and it's back-to-back. So you're going to go see both Thursday and Saturday in Philadelphia, and you're excited. And Sidney Crosby's hurt, and he misses both of those games. Now, you paid your tickets, you don't get to see Crosby. If those games were a month apart, maybe you would have seen him in one game or the other. This is the argument Bettman's making. I don't know that offsets things. And you can't guarantee who's going to be on the ice for any given game. It happens a lot where you go to see and you're, not even in the game. There are games I've gone to see for the Canucks and Besser's not in the lineup. So, he's one of my favorite Canucks. But anyways, it does sound like they're leaning towards making some kind of structural change to the schedule next year that encourages more rivalries, and maybe we see more of these back-to-back games. Obviously not all the time, not like we're seeing it now, but yeah, it makes some sense. He also said the words locker rooms twice. He said it twice that I was counting, and I'm sure he said locker rooms before that. So the whole thing that, Shannon says locker rooms and they're dressing rooms. No, the NHL refers to them, it's the jersey sweater thing all over again. The old ones are sweaters, I refer to them as sweaters. The new ones are jerseys, I refer to them as jerseys. When I'm wearing a sweater, I say it's a sweater. It's so bizarre that people... And it feels like in hockey, we get more stuck on what something's called than any other sport. And it just... Yeah, it's this weird thing. And sometimes I've seen where people will refer to something by the wrong name. People go, did you hear what they called that? And it's like, okay, enough with the gatekeeping. They're new to the sport. Let's not be dinguses. Shall we agree? No dingusing. There you go. It's a new verb. All right. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding the rivalries issue and whether or not you think going forward. Like, I'm not talking about not seeing teams from the other conference. But I'm saying if teams play divisional rivals more, I think it adds to the intensity level of the hockey. It definitely adds to the discussions between the different fan bases, and I think it makes it more fun. But it can get repetitive. That's why we're not talking about just divisional matchups all year. But hey, let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.